I know you had some experience in the startup world before you got into
Their
restaurant,
restaurants.
the
Yeah.
restaurant business. And
Yeah.
tell us about that, and then how did that kind of help propel you into where you're at now?
Yeah. So after Food Truck Fair was sold, I moved to San Francisco to start Juice Bot. And that's like a juice bar inside of a vending machine. Um, that in itself could be its own segment. It took us about a year to even get things off the ground.
Yeah,
One thing we didn't realize is like, oh yeah, we sold we sold Food Truck Fair, and I was like, man, this is a lot of money. This is gonna last us a long time. Well, in San Francisco, when rent is $5K a month in 2013,
that's probably cheap compared to what it is
it
now.
was yeah, well,
Yeah,
because it was a studio apartment with three guys, and so
nice.
we
Probably
we
smelled amazing in
we
there.
luckily we were pretty clean, but we had bunk beds, and then we had a little walk-in closet that was like when you got the chance to sleep in the walk-in closet, it was great. So there was a lot of sacrifices,
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't even go on a date, one, because you can't afford to go on a date, but two, like, what are you gonna say? Like, come over to my studio apartment that I share with three other
yeah.
guys, in a bunk bed to get the startup off the ground. So
That'd be a perfect excuse for me to not date because I'm
yeah,
already not getting chosen. Like, oh
yeah,
man, I could easily. I live in a bunk bed
you
in the
know.
closet.
And then so about a year in, we had all these like prototype kiosks that we were doing pop ups with it, like
Yeah,
farmers markets and whatnot. So we ran out of money. So then at the time, it was like, okay, do we move back to Minneapolis or what do we do? And at the time, Uber and Lyft launched in the Bay Area, and they were giving out like crazy incentives. So we got a car on a lease, and it was the three of us, and we would all do like 5 or 6 hour shifts. So I was making like $1,400 a week driving Uber and Lyft because of all the incentives. So we would all pull in and say, cool, rent is this much, everybody put in this much, and then the rest is yours. But by the time you had any part of it left over, cell phone bill, whatever else, you really didn't have time to do anything else, which was great, than to drive and to work. But what was interesting about that is because when that moment happened, if we would have given up, then I don't know where we'd be right now. But because we didn't give up and we didn't have the ego, we're like, I'm gonna drive. I mean, I remember even some St. Thomas kids that I picked up, driving. They're like, What are you doing driving? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out, making ends meet. But LJ picked up Jack Dorsey from Twitter.
LJ's your partner, correct?
Yep, he
Yep.
was my business partner. He picked up Jack Dorsey from Twitter,
Wow.
and he had an hour and a half ride with him to the
And
airport.
picking his brain.
And not only picking his, but kind of giving him the elevator pitch. You're in the room with the founder of Twitter, hot 2013, and you're pitching him. And then a few weeks later, we get a call. We're in Twitter, and then we get a write up on the Business Insider. So that was like our first little break. So like, okay, so this thing that we were using to survive is is also helping us open up little cracks of doors along the way.
Yeah.
And then Eric, my other business partner, picked up somebody from another startup called 23andMe, and then on that ride sold them on the idea, and then we put one in there, and so we were going through putting these in different corporate cafeterias, and then finally I picked up this family, this like really health nut family out of Southern California. His kids were on the spectrum, and they were the type family that would make sure like their water was like triple time filtered. And so I'm telling him about the startup, gave him my card, and long story short, we went back and forth with his VC, his venture capital group. And after a year of going back and forth, driving, doing all that stuff, in the meantime, we're negotiating. So I'm picking somebody up, dropping them off, and then an hour later, meeting up at a coffee shop to negotiate a $3 million deal. So after a year of going back and forth, we raised 3.5, and that allowed us to stop driving, to start building our team. So a lot of times it's like, you know, the sacrifice is there, and you don't really know. We didn't know if we were going to stop driving after a year or 2 years, whatever, but it was just like, we
Mm.
really believe in this, and we're going to put everything it takes to like make it happen. And when you kind of do that, the universe kind of figures out a way to get out of your way. But he's going down this way.
Yeah.
We're going to make that happen.
So did that, I mean, I didn't even know that. That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
Did that help kind of set the tone for like the rest of your entrepreneurship journey? Just like, I mean, people talk about getting out the mud, but that's a mud right there. Like you really living on top of two other men.
Yeah.
And then sharing a car that you're Ubering.
And, it's funny. And I, I don't know how deep we can get into it, but, I just remember now, one of the people I picked up, why am I forgetting his name? We were at his party at the Timberwolves, at the T-Wolves. He put it on.
Trevor Rozier.
No, not Trevor. Okay. Ali was there. It was when Jenga.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was. He was working at Amazon. I remember it was like on the tail end of me driving Uber. He was one of the last people I picked up, and and it's kind of it's one of those things where you do have to keep your ego in check because
I'll bet
somebody I graduated with is at Amazon doing amazing things. You know what I mean? Like 401k, all that. And here I am driving, like chasing a dream, and you're like, is it going to happen for me? Like at what point do you kind of throw the towel in? And it's hard to say. A part of it is gut. A part of it is like calculation. We felt like the product and the idea was good enough. Yeah. It just needed a chance to be in front of the right person. So especially being, a Black entrepreneur, you don't have as many doors open to you. So you're kind of forcing a lot of those doors to open up and be like, I'm going to just show up. And so you got to let me in.
MBC. No relation to NBC.